Recently, I held a half-day retreat focused on what does it mean to shift to working with God. And it was based on this book here by Allen Arnold called The Story of With. And it was a beautiful afternoon of breakthrough and clarity for the women who attended. So, in this next couple of episodes, since I'm going to be traveling during this time, I thought I'd bring some of this retreat content to you. So, here we go. This idea of working with God seems so logical because we know what to do in business and we know how our relationship with God works. But what I heard time and again in the room during this recent retreat that I hosted is the challenge is the integration of those things. And I came to realize a number of things in that moment. Number one is that God is always inviting us to his more, to his plan, to his work. We are called to be his co laborers, but that's a choice we get to make. And in the end, as Allen Arnold says in his book, we can either run with God or run from God. But the only way to experience his miracles is to put ourselves, to operate from a posture and a position to actually need his miracle. Number two, I realized that being a vessel for this message of redefining hustle and how do we pursue success as a Christian woman, God has positioned me in that center space between the faith and the business piece to help guide his high achieving ambitious daughters to integrate those things. So as you watch or listen to my podcast, may I remind you that these are words that God has given me to share. I am simply his vessel. It is him that you truly want to be following. I appreciate that you follow my content. I appreciate it even more when you engage with it, or maybe you join in as one of my coaching clients, or you schedule a strategy day with me, or you are part of my Rooted Group coaching community. But please remember that it is always God in the center. So often we lower and limit our expectations based on what we know we can do. And we like to be in control, but it's really lowering our level by not counting God, by trying to fit God into our box. And he has so much more for us if we would make the commitment to actually work with him. So in this episode, we're going to cover two of our 4 keys. If you don't already have my 4 keys to redefine hustle tool, please go grab that. The link is below in the show notes. But we're going to start with what does it mean to allow God to define and direct us in working with him. So first, I want to cover what does with even mean? How do we define the word with? Well, I looked this up. And there are a number of definitions, but the hard-hitting definitions, the definitions that really spoke to me were these, that with is to mean to be in the company with, in close proximity to, by means or agency of. I really love that one because working with God means that he is the means, that it is through his work that we actually make the progress that he's called us to make. So we've got to take that definition of working with him. And then we have to understand how he defines working with him. So a few scriptures here for you around this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9, it says, we are his chosen co-laborers. He has chosen us to be his co-laborers. And we know throughout the New Testament that we are chosen to be his ambassadors. And that includes your mission in the marketplace. Remember that your business is where you get to administer your gifts, your talents, your skills for kingdom impact, and that the people to whom you serve your products or services may not experience Jesus except in how you show up. So working with him means allowing him to work in and through us. Another scripture that I absolutely love is in Psalm 1, verses 2 and 3. I'm going to pull this up in, go to this in my Bible so you'll hear me turning the pages here. But, David starts out the Psalms with this beautiful reminder to us. It says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly," which would be culture, which would be the world and how it defines success and hustle, "nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord," in the Lord's word. "And in his law, in his word, he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper." That's what it means to work with God. That's what it means to be in his word and allowing his word to move us forward and instruct us, right? Lastly, we know from Ephesians 2:10 that we are equipped and qualified for works that he has predestined for us. We are not imposters, as I talked about recently on an episode. We are his workmanship, and we are made to walk out what he's given us to do. So that's in a nutshell how God defines working with him. But then how does he define who we are in walking with and working with him? Well, friend, you are the child of the Most High King. If you are a Christian woman listening to this podcast, let me remind you that you are the daughter of the Creator, and that this identity cannot be unseated. It cannot be taken away from you, and it cannot be defined by your achievements, by your results, by your job title, by your income, by your progress, by your failures. None of that is defining you. Only he has the authority to define you. So remember who you are and whose you are. Because when you work with God, the priority in everything you do, and this is from the book, The Story of With by Allen Arnold that we were just talking about. The priority is presence with him over performance, presence in the moment over performance, and intimacy over independence. So what does that mean, intimacy over independence? It means we're not in charge. He's in charge. And that's hard for us, right? Like we want that faith piece, but when we know what we need to do in our business, we just want to go do it. But to work with God is to allow him to define what it means to work with him. It is to allow him to define who you are, not all of the outside accompaniments, if you will, and to be present over performance. And it's intimacy over independence that makes all the difference. So that's what it means for that, to apply our first key of define to working with God. So now let's take a look at our second key, which is direct. So direct is all about giving God the reins to direct you and your business. Okay? It's allowing him to take the wheel. But what I heard in my retreat attendees so often was like, I'm really good at snatching the wheel from God's hands, and I end up on an exit that I didn't mean to go to, right? So when we allow him to direct us and our businesses, that means surrendering our vision, our goals, our action, our results, and surrendering those to his. I am not telling you not to create a vision and a mission. I'm not telling you not to create goals, but it's about creating those with him through prayer, listening for his direction, and then in the end, laying them at the foot of the cross and saying, Lord, this is your business. I don't want to walk this out without you. So move what needs to be moved, change what needs to be changed. Let me follow your direction. Let's go a little deeper into this. Our direction here, it's so critical because our direction versus God's direction, on the our side, it's our knowledge, our way, our strength, our power, our performance. And the bottom line is all of that adds up to we're trying to earn placement. We're trying to earn title. We're trying to earn money. We're trying to earn approval. We're trying to earn everything that God's already given us. But God's direction is his knowledge, his way, his strength, his power, his grace over our performance. And our job is to receive. In the next episode, I am going to talk about the discipline of action, but I want you to hear this loud and clear. Working with God and allowing him to define and direct you means that ultimately your job is to receive his instruction, receive his vision, receive his plans, receive his greater over your good, right? And then to put that into action, which we'll talk about on the next episode. So if we're doing this God's way, there's one major thing that we need to deal with, and that is our desire for control. So down in the show notes of this episode, I have a link for you to download my free Under Control tool. It's a tool that I work with my clients in their coaching, but it's also one that we did live in the recent retreat. And it's about understanding what is truly in our control versus what is actually in his. So let's talk about for a minute what that looks like to allow him to be in control. Again, it's surrender. Friend, you can do all the calls and you can make all the connections, but ultimately he's in charge of the results. You can make the list of prospects, but ultimately he's in charge of who really needs your attention on that list. You know, I made my plan for my retreat and I opened up 16 seats for my retreat, but ultimately it was him who put the 10 people in the seats that needed to be there that day. So as we finish up this first part of working with God, let me give you some questions that you can pray over. Lord, what gets in the way of me hearing and obeying your direction? Lord, what am I clinging to that needs to be released? Lord, show me how my identity in my mind is misaligned to how you define me. And Lord, reveal to me any blind spots that hinder me from working with you, that put up a barrier to me working with you, that attempt to put you in a box that looks like a human box, but that you are so much bigger. What stops me from allowing you to have your way in my business? I'm really excited to hear what you think about this two-part series on working with God. Down in the show notes, I'm also going to have a link to get this book. Again, it's called The Story of With by Allen Arnold. I encourage you to go grab it. And I encourage you to tune in next week for part 2 of this, where we're going to talk about discipline. So what does that taking action look like? And then development. How does he prune us and how does he develop us to be more willing to surrender and embrace working with him? So until we're together next time, I pray for and encourage you to tune out the world, tune into God's truth, and turn up focus as you walk out his assignment in building a thriving business for kingdom impact. I'll see you on the next episode.